Hello everyone, it's Christine here and I hope you're having a beautiful day. I'm going to be showing you in this video how you can make a beautiful Christmas tree like the one I've got on the table in front of me, using buttons and felt and some other things that hopefully you might have around the house. So I'll talk you through the supplies in case you want to stitch along with me. It's a fun little project that we can do together. You'll want to pick out some buttons from your collection. Hopefully you might have a tin of buttons or something. I've picked out some red, yellow, green and white ones. You'll need some felt. I used a green felt. You can either use a craft felt or a wool felt, but you'll need that both for the cone but also for the base of the tree. You'll need some needles, or a needle or two. So that's my little Red Riding Hood needle holder, so I'll pop her out there. You will need a pair of scissors. You'll need some thread. So I used gold thread on my button stitching on so that it would look sort of like tinsel. So let me put the gold thread out, and some green thread to be able to stitch the back of the tree together. You'll also need some skewers, wooden skewers, the ones you use in the kitchen, and that's what's going to form the stem and hold the tree up. If you happen to have a little wooden old style cotton sewing reel, that would be great. But otherwise you could use a plastic one, or I'm sure you'll be able to improvise another base. Another idea would be to use a cork, and you could stick the skewers down into that. You'll also need some brown wool, or you could use like some brown pipe cleaners to wrap around to form the stem. And you'll also need a little bit of extra fabric or felt to wrap around inside the base. And you'll need some material if you want to stuff your Christmas tree. I just used some wool for mine, but you could use whatever stuffing material you normally use. And you will need a little jar or an old votive holder. This is one that I'm still burning, but the one that I used over there was an empty one, but these are great to reuse. Or you could use one of those little jam jars. This is a slightly bigger jar, but again you could put that to good use. It sounds like the dog in the house below is wanting to join in the video as well. And you'll need some Yoo-hoo glue. So I've popped that out there as well. So that gives you a little overview of the supplies. I think that's everything that we need, and also just a Christmas fabric if you want to cover the jar or the votive holder. So what you're going to need to start this project is a piece of felt cut out into this shape. So I suggest felt because you're not going to have problems with fraying edges. To make it easier, I've traced around the piece that I'm using, so that will give you a broad design. If you've got a rectangular piece or a square piece of felt, you can use a right hand corner and then just draw on the curve using this. So I'll pop this very rough design up onto the community section here on my channel on YouTube, but I'll also put it in our Slow Stitching Friends Facebook group if you're part of that. But otherwise you can kind of draw your own, but I just wanted to make it a bit easier. You're also going to need some buttons to decorate, so it's a great chance to dig into your button tin, which is always such a delightful activity. I've picked out some yellow, green, red and sort of pearly whitey coloured ones. I've got a few lovely mother of pearl ones in the mix and some that are a bit clear. I've picked out some nice ones with little design features, but just tried to get a nice variety really. But you can go with whatever colour scheme works for you. Likewise with the tree, if you don't want your tree to be green, that is absolutely okay. And then in terms of the thread I'm going to use to stitch my buttons on, I've picked out this gold thread. Now it's not like those annoying metallics which are really tough to work with. This one is a much softer, but it's got a lovely sparkle which I think will just be like having little lights on the Christmas tree. Now because we're ultimately going to be joining and putting a seam up this edge at the end, What I want to do when I'm putting my buttons on one of the edges is overlap them so that when the seam joins, it's not like there's a line here where you just see the stitching. I want the buttons to be partially overlapping there. So let me show you what I'm talking about, because often that's easier than just saying it. So pick a side that's going to be your back of your piece and pick a side that will be your front. And I'll start with this lovely button. Let's make sure we're in focus. So it's a great way to be starting to show off some of your beautiful, beautiful buttons. But I think it would look good with any buttons, really. They don't have to be special ones. I think most of us end up with a bit of a collection of buttons along the way. Often we have them from, sort of grandparents or just op-shop finds. So I'm just going to probably do maybe sort of 2 stitches through each of the buttons to secure them. And as you can see on this edge, I'm just overlapping them so that they will go partially over where the seam is. That might be time for a green one. Go for a smaller one. Just need to make sure I keep my little stitchy bits, the bits where I have to go through the holes, they need to be on the felt, but otherwise, and that's the good thing about felt again, because it doesn't fray at the edges, you're not going to have that problem with it kind of fraying as you're stitching through it. And yeah, I think twice through is fine for this, because the thread has a bit of weight to it, so I probably would struggle to get it through sometimes more than that. So I'll chuck a yellow one on. Always good to check which is the correct side for your button. Sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes the backs are actually quite nice anyway. So I'll be filming this video in sort of parts because I don't want to sort of make you watch an entire hour of me stitching buttons on, but we'll do a bit of button stitching and you can just sort of see how I'm approaching the task of kind of working out a bit of pattern of them. So I've now had each of the kind of colourways. So we might go to, let's save some of the decorative ones. We might go to a smaller red. And yeah, I'm not worrying which way my little eyes sort of point. I'm not trying to make them all in one particular direction. I think the sort of randomness is quite nice. I'll use one of the big ones here. And I've got plenty more buttons, so I don't know if I'll have enough to cover the surface. I did kind of tip them out on the felt when I cut it out, and they covered a decent amount of the surface. Okay. Nice, we'll go for another green one. Back or front, not sure. Oops. It's actually very relaxing sewing buttons on, I think. Hopefully you might be following along with the project. Hopefully you can, if you haven't got the supplies, hopefully they'll be things that you might have around. Trying with these Christmas projects not to have anything that you kind of need to go out and buy something for. That's the idea. That's different to the other yellow. I might end up with some repeats of buttons, but that doesn't really matter. I think it's just going to be the sort of massing effect of them. As you can see, I'm overlapping all of them on this side, and then on the other side, where the seam's going to join, I'll make sure there's not ones coming right up, but we'll probably do that bit last so that we can sort of adjust it as we go. I'll pop this one on next. I'll probably post this up, not sure when actually. I've got another video to go up tonight, which by the time you're watching this it will have gone up. And that's got some lovely sharing from the workshop I attended on the weekend with the lovely Annie Holcomb. And some of the stitching that I've done since with a bit of Fleur Woods inspiration as well thrown in. Always inspired by Fleur Woods. Such an incredible creative spirit. Oops. See, this one will try and unravel a little bit. If it does do that, I'll just chop that off, and that will be handy for something else. I will keep that one in my little ort jar. They do always say with metallics, even the ones that are easier to deal with, don't sort of cut too long of a piece. But I must admit, I always tend to cut longer than I should because I just don't love having to stop and rethread. And then will we put just a little green one up here? I suppose we're also going to probably have a star on the top of the tree. I don't know. Maybe I'll just go right to the top, and then I can always put a star on top. Atop the very top. I think I need to do a second stitch, don't I? So far it's been good. The needle has fitted through all the buttons. It's not like beads where you get some of those really tight ones. So that's how the back is looking. I'll just tie this bit of thread off, and then I'll go down to the bottom and we can start doing a bit of, I'll show you just a bit of clustering around there. Another thought, if you don't have enough buttons to cover it, this kind of gives you a bit of an idea how you could do just some rows of buttons and then leave some green tree in between, so it'd almost be like the buttons are little bauble decorations. So that's just another thought, another version that you can do. Yeah, as you start to stitch, all the ideas always come, I find. But yeah, really happy with how the gold thread is looking with that. It's nice when a plan pays off. I was actually just looking up at I've got a big box beside my desk up on a shelf, and it had all of my various cones of things, and I thought, oh, the gold, that would be perfect for this project. Now, what green do we want to put on? Maybe just a little one. Actually really good to be using the buttons, because as much as I love looking at them in their jars, it's nice to put them in projects, and then this way I'll get to enjoy them every year when I get out all my homemade Christmas decorations. And it's so lovely to add, yeah, some new homemade Christmas decorations each year as well. There we go. Now, what will we put next? I probably should put a yellow one on, maybe. It's almost an orange, isn't it? But I suppose it doesn't really matter. Oops. I suppose they don't need to be super close together. You can have a bit of spread in them, can't you? But it's like some of those Christmas trees where people sort of decorate almost every inch of them. I must admit, we have a lot of decorations, so ours gets pretty decorated, but you can still see the tree. Okay. Maybe we'll go a smaller one. And it doesn't matter if some of your buttons are thicker and thinner than others. This one's quite a thick but small button. I was thinking you could also, and particularly if you did the tree with just the sort of the bands of the buttons, it could make a nice little pin cushion for a friend as well, a little Christmas festive pin cushion. Green, yellow, we've got that one in there. Maybe I'll go another green. This is where you kind of just need to see where your buttons are spacing and then just work things out. And you can always go a different coloured sort of green, although that's a bit similar to similar to that other one, or will I go white? Do have some white ones in the mix too. Silver. What else? Maybe I'll go another red down here actually. Because you don't want it to look sort of too over planned, I don't think. And do whatever stitching patterns you like in buttons. I tend to do the across, but you can also like stitch around like clockwise or anti-clockwise through the holes. When you have like 4 holes. Let's go a green button next. Maybe not a big one. Maybe a medium-sized one. That one's got some engravings or something into it. It was probably a brand one. I can't quite read what it says. Looks like some of the writing has sort of worn off maybe, or the engraving has worn off. So I'll just come down here so you can sort of see how you can either work in rows or you can work sort of down in cluster ouch. Might put a nice big one there. It might look similar to that one, but it's got a different sort of banding around the outside of it. And then we'll try and find one that fits. What colour would be good in there? Maybe a yellowy, orangey one. No, that's going to be too similar. Let's go maybe a green actually. Put a little green in there. Perfect. It's another one that's got some writing on it. But I suppose you get decorations on the tree, don't you, with writing on them as well. Okay, then we'll come down to a red. And I thought it was much easier to do all the button stitching while the tree was not yet assembled. I did contemplate doing a tree where I stuffed it first and then put the buttons on to overcome the sort of the seam issue. But no, I came back to this as an idea because this isn't an idea I've seen anyone do. So it literally is an experimental idea as I go, hence why I am sort of filming the video in segments, and we'll show you the finished product at the start of the video. But that's my future self sharing that. This self doesn't yet know exactly what it's going to look like when it's finished, or what little additional design choices I'm going to make as I go along. So yeah, I've got both the pearly ones, the slightly see-through ones, and the sort of whitey ones. I think they're a good mix. So I might put another greeny one on. Oops, not that hole, that hole. Good thing with buttons is you can sort of position them with your second, and sort of then you're going through stitches even if they're not exactly in the right spot to start. They get where they need to get. Oops. Such a lovely, the felt feels so nice. I think this must be one of those lovely vintage wool felts. It was just in my random felt container. Now, what are we going to go next for a colour? I wonder if I should go for that, because I can't really, I mean, I could go a different red, or I could go maybe a white. What are we going to do? Or I could go a different green. What do we think? Or maybe a small red. Would that matter? I mean, we've kind of got some little reds together. Just having a look. Or I could go this colour, which is sort of between a yellow and a green. Yeah, I'll go that because it's enough different from the others that are around it. I guess there's always going to be times where you just can't sort of get all the colours separated. But again, it's the massing, so don't kind of get too stuck on it. Just pop something on and I'm sure it will look fine. Oops. Won't be fine when your tail gets stuck. Do I need to go through those again? Can't remember if I went through them. So next up we'll go with a red over here. And then I might, once I've added this one on, I might go off camera and then I'll come back when I'm ready to kind of do the last seam over here, or the last edge, before we start to put it together. Let's get this one stitched on. And then I will see you in the merest of moments for you, but probably tomorrow for me. Hello, so I'm back now having stitched down most of the buttons. We'll just finish off the last few down there. In the end, I ended up overlapping the buttons on this edge a little bit as well. I thought that will work best when it does come together. So just so that it does obscure the seam, and the buttons can just overlap each other a bit if required. So still using my gold thread. And I'll pop through here and we'll find a button to pop into that space. I did have some sorted out upstairs, but I've moved down to the garden because it's such a beautiful day down here. I've used that one already. Maybe not a red, maybe not a green, maybe a red would go better there. That should be fine. So we'll just pop up through the button. Again, it's been pretty easy to position them. There's just been the odd spot where I've had to sort of think about what can I fit in there, or manoeuvre around a bit more. But yeah, mostly doing 2 to 3 stitches through each button, unless it's a particularly small holes. Just make sure I'm in focus. Hopefully that wind isn't picking up on the camera. There's just a few little gusts, but it has been such a beautiful, beautiful day. So I wonder if I can put this little one in there. It's still got some old thread in the middle of it, so let's see if we can take that old thread out. I've got my little snippy snips here. And we can probably snippy snip on the back too. Don't you love old buttons where you can see that they've had a life before you're using them? And these beautiful little vintage decorative ones are some of my favourites. Great, so I'll pop that there and try not to lose that through the table. Get rid of our little thready bit that's adhered to the felt. It's amazing how felt just attracts things to it. And where was I going to put that one? I was going to just... And then I think I can put a smaller one in there and a smaller one below. I feel like my gold thread's just catching on something, not quite sure why. Maybe it's got a little knot or something in the thread. So below that one we could put, I suppose we could have a little greeny, this sort of a greeny one could be nice, although that's quite similar to the other one. Have that little green, yeah. Some of these are quite thick buttons. Stories to tell in the buttons. Where have they been? What have they been on? Or have they just sat in a button jar all their life? Have they had adventures on clothing? So that's probably enough on that one. I'll just put a little anchoring stitch at the back to help hold that steady. And then we'll come up here, and I reckon a yellow one could be nice in there. about that one or one of these. Nope, I think that one, because we haven't got one of those. We've got a couple of these other yellow ones. Just be careful when you're sort of travelling a ways up the back of the fabric like I did here, sort of hopping the thread up. Just make sure it sort of sits flat and you don't pull it tight to make your piece sort of buckle or gather. A little birdie flew behind me. I think it got a shock because I'd moved my table around into a shadier spot because I didn't want to have full sun on me as I was filming this. So we'll just, oops, my thread's coming down. Again, I'll just put a few stitches in behind just to anchor ourselves off. So even the back of the piece is quite pretty, isn't it? You can see how I've sort of meandered my way across the piece. So yeah, I'll just do some tying, some knotting, and then snipping. So that's our base piece done. So the next step will be to stitch up the back. So I've threaded myself some green thread, which is what you saw drifting across before and gathering across my little Red Riding Hood needle book. I just love this little needle book. I have a little tutorial on how I made that if you'd like to make one for yourself. It was off a vintage one that I'd purchased, and I just sort of copied the pattern and made a few tweaks myself. Okay, so let's start off by making sure we've got a secure anchoring. So I'm just going to pass my, and this is just a regular Gutermann cotton that I'm using, so just like a sewing cotton. I did get it secondhand, so I assume it's one of their current ones though. But they do tend to make nice strong threads. So when I do see the Gutermann ones secondhand, I will pick them up. I don't know if I just went under the button that time, but that's okay. So I'm just going to work my way down, putting in little stitches, and I don't think it's going to matter if we can see the stitches a little bit, because it's all going to kind of just blend in with the green. So try and get yourself a thread colour that matches with your undercolour tree colour, whether it is a green or whether you've gone for a different tree colour underneath. Who says you can't have a purple tree? I know a lot of people, do the blue and silver as their sort of Christmas. That was very popular a few years ago. And I suppose if you buy your decorations in that, you'll probably keep doing that. But then I know other people don't like it, sort of a traditional coloured Christmas. So I say you do you. Whatever brings you happiness. Now that Halloween's over, I've got all the Christmas decorations out of their storage cupboard. I probably won't put them up just yet, but I do like to have a longer time to enjoy all the Christmas spirit and joy. And for us, it's not a commercial Christmas. We don't really go out and buy things for each other. I'll make some homemade gifts for the family, and we just have everyone over for a beautiful meal. So it's very, very uncommercial. I'll send some things over for the kids in the West, for my nephews and niece, but for the rest of us, we're all grown up. We have what we need. So it really is just a time for family to get together and share a meal. Share some joy, and that's really that's the most meaningful part for me. So I'm just sort of angling my needle in as I go to just make sure I'm putting enough stitches in, because we are there'll be two options. One, you can just have a little stand-up ornament like that, but I will be showing you also how you can stuff the ornament and create a little pot for it as well. So I want to have stitching that will be able to hold our stuffing without it sort of coming undone. If I need to, I can work back and do a second row of stitches as well. Sorry, I think my voice is going a bit croaky. I'm not sure why. I haven't even been talking that much today. I've been tidying, sorting, curating my supplies, creating the doilies to keep that are in very good condition and really unique and interesting designs, the doilies that I can use either whole or in part, and then ones that are particularly stained or damaged, cutting their constituent parts down to put them in my little cut parts container. And then, yeah, just going through my fabric, seeing which fabrics I'm going to keep pieces of, which ones I have way too much fabric of that I can do a bit of de-stashing in the new year probably. That way I can share some of the bounty, and particularly for those that might be starting out or not have as many supplies, it's lovely if you can pick up some beautiful vintage supplies. They are getting harder to find in the op shops. Probably because there's so many of us that have been collecting them for many years now. But I have seen those memes that say the sort of the sewing and the collecting, they're two different hobbies. And then there's the curating of your collection. Have a look how that's going. Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with that, because you honestly can't see that that line really. Now let me just make sure we are in focus. As I mentioned, I'm in the shade, so I hope it's not too dark or anything. That's the local bus going by. It's good. There's a bus stop just down. Well, in fact, we're almost sort of equally between two bus stops. So. Not that we really catch public transport much these days, not having to go into the city every day, it's a good thing. Can't believe I used to get up at 5:25. Oh no, actually I think I got up usually about like 5:05 and then on the tram by 5:25. That was when I was living in Caulfield. Used to go in for my morning swim in the city and then continue on to work. And then often I wouldn't be getting home until it was well dark and almost time for heading off for the night. So it was a very different lifestyle. Still work very hard, but just not having that commute sort of factored into it just creates time. It takes a lot of the stress out of it. Just being able to be that little bit more flexible. And it really works for my job. Like, I've got an exec team, and they tend to sort of need me at the end of the day, and so I can kind of do a walk with Travis and then come back and still be logged on and just sort of check in for anything that's needed, check in for the day ahead, and it works for everyone. What did I just do there? Managed to capture my thread around my piece. I think I'm trying to decorate the Christmas tree with my thread by the looks of it. It's hard when it catches because you don't quite know which button it's caught on. See, they're all, even trying to untangle it, I'm capturing the thread. There we go. I think we're almost there. What have I done there? I think I've still caught a bit of thread, but what have I caught round? Caught round that button there. Okay, I think we're almost right, and we're almost at the bottom. So I'll just do maybe one more stitcheroo through here. I'll try and not capture any buttons. So at this point, if you wanted to just have a little tree that's going to just stand up like this on your table, so stand up sort of, just like that, but like that. Then you can absolutely leave it like that, and you wouldn't actually have to do anything else with it, because in my case, at the size I've made it, it is definitely standing up. I feel like I'll need to put another little button in there when I'm done, but that's okay. I can always stitch that on after the fact. But otherwise, I think it's sitting together really well. But I want to put a little base on, and I want to stuff it, and then I want to put it in a little old votive holder. So this is a little one that originally had a candle in there, but I've used the candle up. You could equally use one of those little jam jars or something like that. And I'm planning to use one of my old reels to create a bit of an anchor in the base and a bit of colourful stuff. But first of all, with you, I just want to show you how you can work out a base and then put a base on. So what I've done ahead of time is worked out approximately, I've held this up to essentially like a jar or something like that. So obviously this one's smaller than what I needed, but I found a jar that was about similar around to this, and then I use that to draw a shape on some felt and to cut that out. Now we still might need to adjust it a bit more, but what you want to be able to do is essentially to have a base that will fit pretty well around, and I think this one is actually going to be quite good, so we'll see how we go. I'll leave my thread in there and we'll start the process of stitching around, and then we'll come back and add some stuffing to it. So let's adjust. And what you could hear in the background there, that was one of the famous Aussie flies that come out in summer now that the weather's starting to warm up. Today was, yeah, nice, warm. Tomorrow's going to be 30, which will be a shock to the system for all involved, I think. Now the one problem when you've got the buttons is that, yeah, your thread just wants to keep wrapping around it, so wish me luck. Again, try and keep your stitches relatively close together so that it's not going to sort of pop at the seams. I'll try and not stuff it too heavily, just a bit of stuffing. Again, I don't want to make the top too weighty, but I do have some ideas that if it's a bit top heavy, I've got some ideas for how you can address that. But yeah, I'm basically just going to work my way around, putting the stitches around. I'm just holding it sort of in and down, and as I go I'll just keep sort of rolling it around. Just click on my camera while I'm stitching to hopefully keep in focus. Gonna have a nice calamari from the fish shop for dinner tonight with some salad and some potato cakes. Nice easy dinner. He gets the fish man gets the most beautiful fresh fish and very generous serves. But main thing is fresh. I've been spoiled because my mum and uncle are keen fisher people, so I've grown up eating fresh fish all my life. So if it's not fresh seafood, I'm just like, nah. Okay, so let's just see how we're going. How's it shaping up? Because we could always trim it a little bit if we needed to. Now, you must remind me, not that you'll be able to remind me through the camera, don't stitch all the way around, Christine, and then get to the end and wonder why you haven't added stuffing. Now, what have I done here? I've got myself another knot, haven't I? There we go. So I hope you might give this project a go. It's really beyond the little challenges of the thread getting caught around the buttons. It's a pretty straightforward project. Let me know if you've got any questions in the comments. Always happy to ask. It is an experimental project, so I don't have a full pattern per se, but I've got that little sort of tracing that I did, or that drawing around that I did of my cone, which will hopefully get you started. And I suppose I could also do a little draw around of the base as well, couldn't I? Have to remember which jar I used to do my little tracing. I think no, maybe I've already put that on my template. I'm trying to remember. My template's upstairs, so I'll have a check. But yeah, I'll pop that template on our Slow Stitching Friends group on Facebook and in the community section here on YouTube as well. Get a few more stitchy ditches in. But yeah, I think these would be lovely on your Christmas table or on your little sort of side table in your craft room as a nice little Christmassy pin cushion, because you could still stick the pins in between the buttons. Or if you didn't want to do any button decorations, you could just have nice colourful pins in there as like little baubles. And if you don't want to, as I mentioned earlier in the video, if you don't want to sew as many buttons on, you could just do some little, almost like sort of garlands, or just one little row of buttons going up and down across the across the piece. Okay, so I might leave it like that. I'll just put my, where will I put my needle? Maybe into here. And then we might grab some, got some wool, just like a raw wool. I've got a big amount of it. So I thought I might use some of that for the stuffing. This wool's good if you do want to use it as a pin cushion. It helps to sort of keep your pins in a good nick. Now let's just make sure we don't get the thread caught inside. As I say, I don't want to go super stuffy. I just want to give it a bit of substance. Probably need to get a little bit up into the top. I do have some skewers here because they are going to be coming into the process in a moment. So I might use those just to push a little bit of my wool just up to the top. But yeah, I think that's fine. I'm not even too worried if it's not stuffed right thick down to the bottom. I think that's going to be pretty good. Might just put a tiny bit more in the bottom because we are going to put then the skewers up through to hold it in place. As I say, this is entirely experimental. A bit more of the fluff. You could use your normal sort of stuffing, whatever stuffing supplies you have, or reclaim stuffing, anything really. I even brought down some a big roll of sort of like chenille wool I had that I'm not really using for anything, so I thought I could even use some of that. Seeing I've got a lot of this this wool, may as well give that a go. So now I'll just sew the rest of the way around to sort of seal it up at the base, just like that. So I hope you're having a beautiful day or a beautiful evening. It's Saturday here. Hopefully I'll get this posted this evening. And I'll either pop at the end of this or as a separate little shorts video the draw for my little giveaway of my hand-coloured little wool set. So that was a giveaway in one of my previous videos. Try and do little giveaways. I'll have to do another one soon because I've just passed my, is it 3 years on YouTube? They sent me a little anniversary reminder, which is so cool. And I'm just so appreciative for the community that I've found here, and all of you. Anyone who watches a video or leaves a comment or engages in any way, it's just incredibly special and surprising and wonderful. So there we go. If you were just using it on the table, you could finish it at that point and have the stuffing, and then that way it wouldn't kind of pucker in or anything like that. Probably do need to just do a little bit of easing of my buttons at the seam, but that's all right. We can do a bit of that after if I need to sort of adjust any of them. I can always do that, but I think they'll sit okay over each other. So now I'm going to grab my skewers. So these are just skewers that you'd use in the kitchen, wood skewers. And I've put a little hole in here. I just sort of found the center of my circle and put a hole in with it. And the plan is to have the skewers, maybe I'll have to do them one at a time, go in the middle and up the center of my tree up to the top. And we don't want the skewer to pop out like it tried to do there. We just want it to go up to the top. And then we'll put another one in. And again, I'll try and keep it sort of on the straight and narrow and not have it poke out somewhere where we don't want it to be. Hopefully that's not poking out anywhere we don't want it. It's trying to come out the top. So I'll just need to not push them too far. And then a third one. I thought 3 might be the catch. So I'm just sort of wangling them in, but it does help to put the hole into your felt. So I'll just, but you can always make a little hole before you start poking them in, but that's sitting pretty well. Now I'm not going to need the full length of them, because what I'm planning to have them is go into this little vase. So I'm going to get my non-good scissors and just do a little bit of trimming off of the ends to see how far down. I'll still want them to go a fair bit further down because I don't want it to be top heavy. So yeah, and we're going to be stabilising this in the base, the little cotton reel, but I think that will be pretty good. I could probably even go just a tiny bit further down, I think. Maybe a bit more. I'm worried they're going to pop up and hit my eyes. There we go. So for inside, I'm also thinking I will put a couple of coins. I've just got some Australian 50-cent coins down here, and I'm thinking I'll put them in the base just to make a nice solid, heavier base. And then I've got a bit of this stretchy, don't even know, I probably got it from the reverse art truck as a little fabric sample, and I'm thinking I will use this to wrap around my little cotton reel. Might actually fold it over 3 times, I think. But you could use whatever you have. I thought Hessian could be quite nice to use for wrapping. I do have a big Hessian bag as well that I'll be doing a Christmas craft with soon, so stay tuned for that. So something like this is what I was thinking. And then a tree sitting in there. And I might just need to maybe just put a bit more something around the cotton reel just so it sits nice and solidly, perhaps. Oops, there we go. So I might even add a bit more of the wool into the middle of my wrapping-y bit. And then we're also going to wrap the wooden skewers as well with some brown wool. I just want to make sure this is nice and sort of tightly secured in place, but doesn't have a sort of a bobbly bit on the bottom to wobble around. So it'll be a bit of trial and error, but I think that's getting a bit closer to the effect that I want. There we go, and it's not going to fall over. It is nice and secure. I might also put just a tiniest bit of wool down the bottom of here, which will just help to hold my skewer nice and sturdy. I think probably not that much wool though. A little bit less. A little bit of wool goes a long way, doesn't it? Because we just don't want our skewers sort of wending around. Although actually, because I'm going to be wrapping my skewer, I might not actually need this. Second thoughts. Okay, so I've got some brown wool, just a random secondhand brown wool, and I think I'll use this to wrap around my sticks, my skewers. And I can probably just tuck the end sort of under as I wrap. So I'll just hold the end before I can sort of get down to it. Hope that was a car backfiring. I don't really hear gunshots here in Australia, thankfully. So I'm just going to wrap. Hopefully I'm in focus. Let me tap. And yeah, this should help it to stay secure, but we do have that little bit of extra wool if we need it down the bottom. Hopefully it won't make it so thick that it doesn't fit into my hole. And here I might just take it. I probably actually should have just done a knot or something, which I can still do. But should have perhaps left it just a tiny bit longer before I cut it. And just put a knot in here. Travis has just come out to say hello to his adoring fans. Now I'll get a needle and just help to push that end down into the little hole. But I think that's gonna, yeah, that's pretty solid. I'll probably just need to, deal with that little endy piece a tiny bit more, but I won't do that on camera and be tedious. But that's sitting pretty nicely in there. That's how it looks. And the other thing I want to do, because I don't want to have a blue pot, so let me just grab this bit out for now, and grab this bit out for now, and we'll come back and put it back in the pot at the end, is I want to take a bit of fabric and use it to wrap the pot. So this is actually some of my Nana's old patchworky sort of style fabric, and I thought I could fold over the edge and then do some wrapping around, hopefully, and fold this edge over as well so we don't have any raw edges. Probably even go a bit more over, and this will actually help it to hold a bit more firmly as well. I forgot that I was doing this. I was wondering why when I was kind of playing around it was tighter in the pot, but that was because I had my fabric. So we're just going to fold this edge under, and we'll just get it right first of all, and then we can always put a dab of glue to just sort of hold it in place. I think that's going to be pretty good. And then when we put our little we now need to just re-wrap our little spindle, which, as I say, might not need as much of the sort of woolly filling now, but we'll see how we go. Stick that in there because we just want a nice tight fit. I don't mind if that sort of the glittery bit just sort of comes up a bit further. Do want to get this end over and tucked in like that, and I'll just use maybe one of my skewers just to help push this bit of fabric down a little bit into the pot. In fact, I can do that all the way around, which will help. And then I thought we could just use a bit of glue at the very base, would hopefully work okay. Or we can put a little bit down this side. Did I bring down my glue? Yes, I've got my glue stick. It's always the problem when you're going to go and film outside. You're like, did I bring everything I need? So I'll just put a little bit of my trusty Yoo-hoo glue, and then around the base we can just give it a bit of a trim. Bodgy trim, Christine, but that's okay. And then we'll just put a bit of glue around here, and we can just bring our fabric over, and we just want to make sure we get a nice flat base. I can always put a little bit of felt. In fact, that's probably what I'll do, just to create a slightly neater base on it. We can probably do that now, actually, because I do have the extra felt. Didn't bring a pair of a marking pen out with me, but we can probably just cut around and approximately get a base piece, hopefully. See how we go freehanding it. Could also use your fabric for this, but the great thing about the felt is it doesn't end up with raw edges. So I'll just give it a bit of needling off to try and get it a bit more back to a circly shape, not have any jaggedy bits on it. And will we be pretty happy with that? Yep, that will give us a nice base on it that's not going to sort of tumble over. And in fact, I haven't put my 50-cent pieces back in there, have I yet? Because I don't know if I'm actually going to need the extra weight of them inside. So there we go. Nice little solid base. We can then put our tree back in, and this like that. And there we go. That is our beautiful little Christmas tree. Let's focus in again. It's got its little pot. It's got its stem. Bit of glitter in the base of it. You're using an old vintage cotton reel and some of your lovely vintage buttons. And as I say, if you did feel you needed the the extra weight to hold it in place. You could absolutely put the coins in there, and also if you want to use a bit of wool just to stop it sort of wobbling around, if that's something that you need. And I've had Travis come and have a look at me, and now I've got Alex coming to have a look-see. And so I hope you've enjoyed that. Stay on if you want to see my little drawer for my giveaway for my hand coloured threads. But otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this little Christmas craft. Okay, so I'm now ready to do the draw for the winner of my coloured threads. I've popped all the eligible people's names onto post-it notes, which I've folded over, just to avoid any risk of seeing any of the names. I'm going to put a tea towel over the top. I'm going to mince it around inside there so it's not bumping the table. And then I'm going to grab a name out, and the winner is Sandy Mac. So Sandy, I will pop a comment below your comment on the video where you entered here on YouTube, and I'll give you the details for you to get in touch with me to give me your details so I can send you your coloured thread prize. So thanks everyone, and thank you for watching my little video with my Christmas decoration. Really happy with that. Thanks everyone. Bye.